So what are we supposed to do? We're each supposed to read our paper and get comments from the other people, and then talk about it. Yeah, the author reads and then he stays quiet while the other two talk, and then he gets to talk again at the end. Okay, so who goes first? I will if you want. Okay. Sometimes a lesson takes a long time to learn. When I was in college... Aren't you supposed to tell us what to look for? Oh, yeah. I'm not sure. I guess when I wrote it, I had one story in mind, but towards the end I kind of ran out of gas. So if you have any ideas about that, and whatever else you notice, organization, grammar, really anything's fine. Okay, so I'll start over. Sometimes a lesson takes a long time to learn. When I was in college, I took a creative writing course with A.J. Verdell. Each week, I dutifully turned in writing, wrote comments on the writing of my classmates, and contributed to the discussion of each writer's work. Towards the end of the fall semester, Professor Verdell arranged a conference with each of us individually in her office. I arrived on the day of my conference, brushing snow off my sleeves, secure in the knowledge that I had fulfilled all the requirements of the course. Professor Verdell, an elegant African-American woman with long braids who often wore crisp, brightly colored suits, watched me from behind her desk as I sat down facing her in a hard wooden chair. Never one for pleasantries, she came right to the point. Michael, I was watching the Olympics the other day, watching figure skating, and it struck me that you're a silver medalist. I shifted in my chair. What do you mean? I mean, when it comes to writing, I think you're a silver medalist. She leaned forward, put her elbows on the desk, and extended her hand toward me. You always turn in your work. It tells a clear and vivid story that anyone can relate to. You make insightful comments. As it is, you'll always be better than most of the other writers in the class. Smiling tightly at this praise, I waited, sensing the axe about to fall. But if you want to be a writer, she said, tapping the desk with her fingers, that's not good enough. If you want to be a gold medalist, you have to do more than that. So the question is, are you content to be a silver, or do you want to be a gold? Walking back to my dorm from Professor Verdell's office that day, I watched, dazed, as the snow quietly covered the familiar landscape of the campus, transforming it into a cold lunar landscape. Back in front of my computer, I reread the piece I had written for tomorrow's creative writing class. Was it the work of a silver medalist? I wasn't sure. That spring, I signed up for another creative writing course. This time, the teacher, Joyce Carol Oates, asked us to read and discuss short stories by published authors, as well as whatever had been turned in by our peers for that week. As a result, there was sometimes a stack of writing to read and sometimes almost none. Sometimes we spent an hour on one person's writing, then discussed 3 other pieces in the next 15 minutes. Frustrated, I stopped submitting my own work. At the end of the semester, I applied to the next stage of the creative writing program, which would mean meeting for a regular one-on-one tutorial with a professor. The news that my application had been rejected only seemed to confirm what Professor Verdell had said. As a silver medalist, I was missing some part of what it took to be a real writer. Only years later, when I began to write creative pieces again and to teach creative writing to high school students, did I understand Professor Verdell's advice. My students' writing was excellent, full of good vocabulary, personal examples, and varied sentence structure. Much of it was A work. But did it matter to them? And if not, would it matter to anyone else? Well, I have a comment, but it's not about the end. Go ahead, I think that's okay. I think the first sentence should be taken out. It sounds like a cliche. I agree, but then you can't just start with, like, when I was in college. Why not? Well, aren't you supposed to start with the action? I guess. I don't think you have to. I mean, a lot of the examples that we looked at in class started with kind of in the middle of the action. Well, it could start when he gets to her office. But I think you need the background. I kind of like words like dutifully and fulfilled the requirements in the first paragraph. I think it kind of sets up the whole silver medalist thing. And the brushing off the snow sets up that snow moment later on. What do you mean? Well, I read the brushing off the snow kind of like brushing off any criticism. You know, like later on it says transforming the campus into a cold lunar landscape. So it's kind of like the snow is like her criticism and it makes everything seem different. I guess I didn't catch that. Well, could you put some of that stuff into the first scene, kind of like a flashback? Am I supposed to answer? I'm not sure what you mean. Well, if it started in her office, there could still be moments where you like flash back to earlier in the semester, putting some summary into the scene. Okay. Speaking of that, I thought the last two paragraphs kind of skimmed over the scene, like it was all summary. I think you should develop those more. I think you should take them out. But I like the resolution. The last line, did it matter to them? If not, would it matter to anyone else? I really like that. At least the next to last paragraph. It kind of seemed like that was a whole different topic, at least up till the last sentence. Yeah, I can see that. Another thing I wanted to say. Wait, so are you guys saying you think I should take out the next to last paragraph and develop the last one more? I think that's what we're saying. Tell more about what happened to your students. You could also develop the part where you're talking to the professor. Where do you mean? Two places. She extended her hand to me. What was she doing? She was going like this. Okay, yeah, I didn't get that either. And the part about waiting for the axe to fall, I think that's kind of a cliche too. Maybe another metaphor there? Yeah, maybe you could bring the snow back in, you know, like something about snow falling. Yeah, that's what I was going to say earlier. Maybe, you know, since the snow kind of represents her criticism, maybe you could bring that out more. She could even be wearing a white suit instead of a brightly colored suit. But that wouldn't be true. There's poetic license. What? You know, when you tell the story, you pick and choose the details anyway, so you can never tell exactly what happened. And what's that called? Poetic license. You are such a nerd. Are you guys done? Should I come back now? Yeah. Sure. So, I hear you saying that I should try to start with the office scene and move some of the background summary stuff into there, and that I should develop the last paragraph more. Oh, and develop the snow thing. And change the hand thing. Right, okay, thanks. I wrote some other stuff on your paper. Okay, great. You want to go next?